Hey everyone, my name is Yarrow, and you're listening to the Daydream Rules podcast. I'm recording this episode again because I noticed that in my last recording there was a really weird rustling sound and it was kind of a little bit too distracting, I think. So sorry about that. Thank you for listening. I'm excited to talk about self massage today. I am so touch starved at this point in the pandemic. I'm someone who's really into being affectionate. I love hugs, I love touch, I love stroking, I love all these things so much. Not with everyone, obviously, not all the time. Yay, boundaries. But yeah, man, my body is missing it. And so I've been thinking a lot about massage and self massage and the luxury and the beauty of all of that. I want to talk about that with you today. Before I do, a few updates from me. I have mentioned I broke my leg on New Year's Eve, and it was weird and strange break. I needed a lot of metal work to piece things back together, but I'm healing really well. I'm not walking yet, but I'm getting there. And I think something that this has taught me is really so much patience. Oh my God. And also relying on what is available. I think the first 9 months of the pandemic, I really needed my almost daily hikes and my bedroom dancing, and that felt good. And then that was gone too, and I was like, whoa, all right, okay. What am I going to do now? And so I think, yeah, in the last few months, I've been sitting on my bed and rubbing herbal oils into my skin more than I usually do, and that felt really nice. I've also simplified a lot of things in my life and in my business to make space for healing and just rest. And I'm noticing that I am so much more connected to the seasons every year. I think a few years back, seasonal living seemed like a really good idea to me. I was like all over it, basically, but also found it kind of very abstract and didn't really know what it would feel like in my body, in my mind, day to day, year by year. And now that I'm through my second winter in Scotland, um, I'm just really noticing that the transition into spring is so much more beautiful because I rested more in the winter. So over the winter solstice, I gave myself 3 weeks off, a big chunk of which I unfortunately spent in hospital, which wasn't very relaxing. But nevertheless, I had some time off, I wasn't working, and I can now feel how my creative energy is kind of blooming in a similar way than the bulbs in my garden do because they had really good rest underground. And so I'm just so committed to this whole thing of seasonal living, it's the shit, basically. But anyway, coming back to seasons and simplicity, like I said, I've simplified a few things, and that means that everything I'm offering for patrons is now in the Embodied Ritual community. We have a shared space on Mighty Networks where we talk about stuff that comes up and we share resources, which I really enjoy. And then in the last almost 6 months, we also had creative space sessions every Saturday. That's been so nourishing. So we just meet, I open the space with a check in, I draw a card for us, we do a short meditation, and then we each quietly work on our own stuff. And it's just been such good, really gentle accountability to be engaged in creative expression in some way. And we're now shifting to doing this fortnightly, so every other week. And then, in addition to that, every month we'll have a themed workshop, and this month it will be self massage. And so, this Sunday, March 14th at 6 p.m. UK time, I'm offering this live workshop where I'm telling you more about my practices, and I'll be able to visually show you some more things, which maybe is a bit richer than this podcast episode, but I'm also excited to share some stuff on here. And yeah, so if you're curious about that, I'll link to it in the show notes. You can become a patron at any level to join us, and there'll be more self massage practices in the rest of the year, and lots of other cool stuff like my monthly themed ritual kits and recordings and an e copy of my book and all kinds of other stuff that you get access to. All right, so self massage. I am currently in a training with someone called Jane Clapp, who's really wonderful. I think if you enjoyed this podcast, you might enjoy her podcast, which is called, I believe, Clap with Jane. Which, yeah, she talks a lot about embodiment and movement work and how that is all about, politics as well in a really grounded and expansive and exciting way. And I really love how she's facilitating this training. I'm learning so much that I'm weaving into my own life and practices, but also in what I'm sharing. Um, and so, one of the things I feel I've really been invited to do through her program is to listen to my body and to really kind of practice and nurture consent with myself. So I'm sharing that because I think when we're getting into a new movement or bodywork practice, it's tempting to kind of look for how to guide and then follow that word by word. But actually, I really love how Jane shares that she didn't want to create a framework that can be replicated, but instead is giving people tools to utilize in working with their own situation and really customizing that to something that feels good to them. So, in this audio podcast situation, I will share a practice around hands at the end. But I think really what I want to share is the idea that we can become still and listen to our bodies and see what actually wants to engage in what way. So rather than looking up a self massage routine and say begin with our feet and work our way up to our heads, what if first we would just sit down and quiet ourselves and take a really deep breath and a massive sigh, a sigh that really honors these last 12 months and everything that we've been through, and then ask our bodies, like, what does it need today? What would feel good? Is it actually my feet? Is it my head? Is it my shoulders? Is it my arms? Is it my thighs? Who knows, Listening is really cool. And I think consent is important with other people, and it's also something that we can give ourselves. And then it can grow from there. And the other thing I want to share as an invitation is to consider that maybe a self massage practice can sometimes be a really nice alternative to quiet meditation. I know for myself that sometimes I'm craving this kind of turning inward and like a ritual practice and some kind of embodiment, but I'm too nervous or too activated to sit down in silence or even with a guided meditation, which both of which are practices I absolutely love and do regularly and could not imagine my life without, but also just know that they're not for every single day and every single moment. And sometimes it's really nice to have something to do with your hands and to reconnect with your body in that way. That's how I feel, at least. And then another element to this that I'm excited about is the idea of really engaging all my senses. I have a few different implements that I use, little wooden foot massage things, for example, and then I have the spider-like thing that I use on my scalp, which I really love. And these are just engaging me in all these different ways that are so nice. I also love working with herbs, as you probably have already gathered in the last 100 or so episodes on here. But yeah, like the other week, for example, I infused hemp oil with chamomile, rose, and hawthorn. And I made this little amber bottle and then a label that says I might have a broken leg, but I'm still a Queen of Pentacles. And that makes me smile every time I open it, and it smells so good, so earthy. And then I rub that into my skin with kindness, and I enjoy the sensations. And that's really kind of all, but it's so much, right? And I'm really thinking a lot about pleasure and how much of that I'm allowing myself. And I'm just so grateful. To have a body that can do these kinds of things is just incredible. I also noticed that it's really been helping with pain relief, and I can't speak for everybody, right? I'm just speaking to my own experience. I've been needing painkiller at points in the last 2 months after my, after having this weird and complicated surgery, um, and I'm really noticing that when I take time to massage myself and do a bit of breath work, I relax much more. There's less tension, and I have an easier time going to sleep. And that's powerful, right? Because sleep really affects everything so much: our digestion, our energy levels during the day, our mood, what we have capacity for, what we can be present with. And I am definitely spending more time on screens at the moment than I would like. And so it feels nice and evening to kind of really transition away from screen time into bedtime by massaging myself and smelling nice smells, and maybe burning some lavender essential oil, that kind of thing. Yeah. Okay, so I would love to invite you into a little practice if you like. We'll just be working with our two hands, and if you feel drawn to working with something else right now or something else is more available to you, that's of course totally fine as well. But if you like, just take both your hands and rub them together. Whew. Just enjoying this heat that we can generate in that way. And then the next thing I like doing is like spreading my fingers really wide, like a starfish, and then making a fist and really scrunching my whole hand up, and just making some of these like beautiful expansive movements of opening my hands up and feeling the range of movement that's possible in this moment. And then I like to take my left and my right thumb and place it into the middle of my palm in my left hand. And I'm just beginning with small circles, experimenting with different kinds of pleasure. Actually, I was going to say pressure, but that was Freudian. There's also pleasure here, so that's good. And I'm just making circles that become bigger and bigger. And some days I like to go really deep into the tissue and the muscles and kind of unknot there. And other days I just really enjoy like the slightest brush against my skin. And then you can begin with your little finger and kind of rub those, maybe very gently pull a little bit, and then move on to the next finger. And as you do this, you can feel for all the different sensations in your skin, how it feels in different parts of your fingers and your hand. Maybe some parts a little bit more rough and some are really soft. And then you've got fingernails as well. Isn't that wonderful? And then when you come to your thumb, maybe shake both your hands out a little bit. And then you can take your left thumb and begin in the middle of the palm of your right hand. Again, making circles and being open to different kinds of approaches here. Just because you liked one playing on one hand doesn't mean you have to continue that way. See what preference your right hand has. And then when your circles have become bigger and bigger, you can begin again with your little finger. Give that a squeeze and a rub and maybe a gentle pull. And moving your way up, checking in with each finger as you go along. And if you like, you can interlace your fingers in front of your chest. Just send some love and gratitude to your hands for being able to support you and what you want to do in the world every day, and for being a source of touch for yourself. I'm so into sighing, so good. Thank you so much for joining me and listening. I know this was experimental, So I'm grateful for your openness, and I wonder if you feel any different, how your hands are doing, if you want to do some more of this work, if maybe there's a different part in your body that actually really wants attention. And yeah, if you want to join us again, you can do so on Sunday. If you're listening to this at another point in the future, check back on the link. There'll be more workshop like this, so you haven't missed out yet, and it would be nice to meet you there.